Aloha artist, Miss Maggie here today. To watch the seasons change here in Hawaii, you need to look closely. The changes are subtle, which is another word for very small changes or details. But one of the things that changes with the seasons is what animals are visiting us here in our surrounding ocean. It is December, and the humpback whales have been beginning to arrive. Let's celebrate and welcome these amazing ocean mammals back to our islands. They just swam here all the way from Alaska, and they'll be here until about April or May. And I hope that you get to go to the beach and see them, and maybe even put your head underwater and hear their beautiful song. So let's imagine today the humpback whales underwater in the beauty of the ocean. And so we'll learn how to draw them, and we'll also play with oil pastels and watercolor. Okay, let's see what supplies we are going to need today. Today would be a great day to use one of our larger art papers. If you still have a watercolor paper that's one of the larger or large-ish sizes, that's great. If not, get one of the large drawing papers. Those are still a better quality than photocopy paper or printer paper, and especially better quality than lined paper. This art paper that we sent home was to help you have the right tools for making excellent art. The right tools help your art turn out its best. So, a large art paper, watercolor if you have it. If not, drawing paper will work for today too. And we'll want a pencil, eraser, and Sharpie. My eraser has been getting used up. See how I've kept its wrapper on? Keeps it nice and clean and safe. And we will be doing oil pastels today. My oil pastels have been getting used a lot. Some of them have broken, but they still work great. And your watercolor paint. And so, paint brush, some water in a container that will be safe around your technology, and a paper towel. So, go find all of these supplies: large art paper, pencil, eraser, Sharpie, oil pastels, watercolor, brush, water, and paper towel, and meet me right back here. Okay, so for this artwork, the first thing we're going to do is to draw our humpback whale, or maybe you might even draw more than one. Anything that I draw, I always look at the real thing, if I can. Doesn't work well with a whale, or a picture, that works. I've got one of those. And look and see what sorts of lines or shapes I can notice about it. When I look for those lines and shapes, then it lets me look at what's really there and decide what to draw. For instance, the humpback whale, if I look at its back, I see there's some little details, but from nose to tail, it's almost a straight line. It has a little bit of a curve. And so that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to decide, where is my whale going to go, and how big is it going to be? I think I'm going to have its nose start here, and its body end here, and that means there'll still be some tail back there. So to get myself started, I'm going to draw two little marks that are my guidelines. Helps me know exactly how long I'm making that line. So I'm going from here to there. Curved, but only a little bit curved, and I know where I'm starting, and I know where I'm finishing, and I'm going to go nice and light, because if I need to make any changes, I still can. Okay, there we go. Now, I notice that the bottom of the body has a whitest spot down here, underneath the fin, and it is narrow up here. This spot is right about in the center. And so I'm going to look at my drawing so far, find the center area, decide how wide should it be, make a little mark there, and then I can look and see how does this curve around, go down to there, and then come back up. And I see that's my widest spot. Okay, let's do the front of the whale. It comes down. I'll put that fin in later, and then it comes up, not to a point, because then the tail ends up happening after that. Okay, now, what's the difference between a fish tail and a whale tail? They're different, aren't they? I mean, whales are mammals. They give birth to their babies live. Fish lay eggs. Fish don't have to come up to the surface to breathe. They're very different, but their tails are different too. Fish tails are like this. Whale tails are like this. So how do we draw this whale tail so that it is horizontal? Well, I can't have it just pop out of the side of the paper. But if you look here, I can see that the tail is at an angle. And so see how this tip here and this tip here, I can draw a line between them, and that line is a diagonal. So I'm going to look over here, decide how big should the tail be, and then make a guideline that is diagonal there. Just very lightly, I'm going to erase it in a bit. And what I'm going to do with that is the bottom of the body here, I'm going to do this curve that goes out to the point. Curving out to a point. There we go. And then this part here, I'm going to curve that out to a point too. Now, I've got part of the tail that's closer to me and part of it that's farther away, just like my hand here when you look at it. And so, in the center of all this is that spot right there. And that kind of comes straight out from the body. I think I'll do it right about there. Yeah. And that is where it goes out, down, point. And then the opposite, out, down, point. And then I've got my whale tail. You might notice some subtle details, like the fact that that line keeps going. I can add more of those details later. Let's add some details to the whale's face. The first time I ever drew a humpback whale, I was in elementary school, and I remember being kind of surprised and confused about where the whale's eye is compared to its mouth. Look at the whale's face. See what you notice about the mouth and the eye. Interesting, huh? We've got a mouth that comes up and then it turns down, and then there's the eye. The eye is about halfway between the widest spot where you could imagine it under the fin and the nose. About halfway, maybe just a little bit over. So I'm going to find that over here. So I think the mouth ends about halfway and the eye's right there. So I'm going to make a little mark where the end of the mouth is. That's what I'm going to do. And I see that the mouth is going to curve up and then down. Pretty much straight and then down. And then down here is the eyeball. And whales, a lot of times they have eyelids that look a little bit droopy, sleepy, but also wise. And then the pupil. There we go. We've got the whale's mouth. What other details do we need to add? What about its fin? So, right here is where it comes out. Just in front of the widest spot. I see that it connects right like that. And I'm looking at what are the lines it's made out of. From here, I see that it curves up and down like that. And I see that this one curves to that spot. But there are those little bumps on there, aren't there? So once I've got the shape, I can add those bumps. There we go. Important. Now, how about the subtle details up here? Those little details that you need to look closely to pay attention to. And so I notice that there are some bumps on the whale, and then there is its hump, because it is a humpback. And we go down, and then look at that beautiful detail there. Okay, I think this whale is pretty close. I see some more bumps here. And one detail you can't see too well in this picture, but in other pictures you can see, is that down here, sometimes you see some lines like this. And what that is, when the whales are up north and they're feeding, they open their mouth up so wide and take the biggest mouthful of krill and water, and then they close their mouth and they squeeze out all that water through their baleen, which is their teeth, but they're almost more like hairs, kind of like this. And all the water gets squeezed out like and all the food stays inside. And so this is where their mouth expands. And so I think I have most of the details from my humpback whale. Are there any other details that you noticed that you think should be included? How do you feel about adding another humpback whale? You know how to draw them now, right? I bet we can do it. I'm going to draw the baby. So, how large is the baby going to be? And where am I going to put it? Am I going to put it up above the mom, reaching for the surface? Will I put it here like the picture? Maybe it's diving down and getting more independent. I think I like the idea for this one of it reaching up for the surface. So if I'm going to do that, that means the nose is going to be here and the tail is going to start here. And then the end of the tail will be over here. So see how I planned out how big it is, what direction it's swimming in, and now I can draw that first curved, almost straight line for its back. I can find the middle spot right about there and have it curve down to that spot and curve back to that spot. There are any other details I should have added? Subtle changes to the shape? I think that's pretty good for now. I'll erase that line since this whale is overlapping. And I'm going to do the tail just like before. Okay, so this tail is coming down this way. I'm going to do that diagonal line. It's still diagonal off of the body. See that there? That lets me know from here I'm going to go out and up, and from here out and up, find the spot in the middle, out and up, out and up. There we go. Well, what's next? How about the mouth? Okay, halfway in between is where the mouth ends. Up, down, and then the eyeball. This little whale is going to be looking up, and I'm going to see what other details it needs. The hump, and there, and oh, it needs its fin. And the fins on babies, they're a little bit out of proportion. They're extra large. And so I'm going to see it come down like this and like that. And I'm going to give it some bumps and like that. And I think its mouth got a little pointy. It's looking a little dolphin-y. I don't want that. This is definitely a humpback whale. And so there we go. I've got the baby there. Sometimes when the babies are extra young, the mama will actually keep them kind of up on their back so they can push them up to the surface to breathe. The moms are looking out for their babies. Wonderful. So, what other details did you add to your humpback whales? Now, I am going to think about where my humpbacks are. I'm going to give them some of the energy and movement of the ocean and of the feeling of being near our island of Maui and the other islands surrounding us. So, I am going to add some curves, and I think I'm going to have a curve kind of go, I don't know if I want it to go, I think the baby's just going to be almost at the surface, and it's going to go like that. That's how I'm going to do it. So the baby's not quite breaking through. But the back tail is. You decide how you want the surface of your ocean to flow. Big waves, little waves, up to you. And I'm going to use some more of those curved lines down here because I'm going to use it to create this feeling of movement and some interesting designs as well. I think I like it like that. I think I want these two to not be perfectly the same though. Sometimes I like my lines to repeat exactly, and sometimes I want them to be more different. So I'm going to have that come down, and then maybe I'll have this one come down to that one. Ooh, I kind of like those lines like that. Maybe I create some more coming off like that. So I'm adding more curvy lines, which wasn't my plan. When I've done this sort of art before, I didn't have so many curvy lines. But I think that's kind of really neat. Interesting. When I did art like this before, this is one of them. So I just had 1, 2, 3 curved lines, and then I added in more patterns and details. Same thing on this one. Just 1, 2, 3. You do what you like to give the feeling of movement of the ocean. But one thing I do want to add is that island in the distance. And our islands, they don't stop at the ocean. They keep going underwater. They go all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. Haleakala is as tall as Mount Everest if you count from where it really begins, way down below. And so I'm going to have that island visible underwater, coming up, up behind the whales, up, 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 and then like that. There we go. It is underwater and above. And if you want another island in the distance, here's a way you can do that. Whenever you're up at the top of the ocean, you can see the horizon, that straightest line in the world that is actually the curvature of the earth. And so I'm going to put that up here above the water, straight line, sketching it lightly in case I need that. And too high up though. That makes Haleakala, or whatever island that is, look too short. Put it right there. Awesome. And then I'll put an island small in the distance there. And I'll put a couple little clouds there. Because a lot of times our islands have clouds that just sit on one side of them. Those moist trade winds hit the side of the island, rise up, and then they condense into clouds, and that's where they rain, and the other side of the island stays dry. Have you ever noticed that when you look at Haleakala or West Maui Mountains? You might have seen that. Okay. Oh, I'm excited about this artwork. What details did you add to yours? I hope I gave you a lot of different ideas to pick from and then use to create your own ocean expression of the humpbacks I'm going to Sharpie all the lines that I think are important now. You do that too, and then let's erase the pencil lines. Sound good? Okay. I sped up this footage. You take your time sharpening. Make all those subtle details in your humpback whale shine and the rest of your lines too. And then erase all the pencil marks. It's going to look great. Okay, now that we've finished sharpening and erasing, let's do some oil pastel. First of all, we are going to use oil pastel to make your whales look realistic in their light and dark areas so that they look a little bit round and three-dimensional. And then we are also going to use oil pastel to put in patterns and designs that give us the feeling of movement and the currents of the ocean. So first, let's look back at our humpback whale photo. What colors do you notice in the whales? Look at your oil pastels and pull out all the colors you would use to color them. I definitely see some blue for sure, and I have this turquoise blue as well, and I see some very dark values there, some purpley colors. If I use black, it's probably going to just take over. It doesn't mix very well without just overpowering the other colors. But I think white will be very useful in blending and for getting those lighter areas. So those are the colors that I see. If you see any other more colors, you can grab those too. And I know every oil pastel set is different, so you see what you have. I have my oil pastels here that I'm going to use. I have my picture here, and I have a napkin because oil pastels, they get dirty and then other colors get mixed in that we don't want. So check and see if you have clean oil pastels, especially that white. Whites get all the colors on them and then that messes them up. Okay, let's begin to oil pastel our whales. I'm going to take the darkest color that I found and look at where in my photo is it the darkest and then begin to put it there in the whale. And so in the darkest spots, I'll go harder with the oil pastel, and if an area is a little bit dark but not as, I can use a little bit less of it. And I'm not going to worry about filling in the areas all the way yet because I have several different oil pastel colors I am going to blend together. See how it's dark up in that area? It's mostly on the bottom of the whale, but I'm noticing some subtle differences and putting them in. Ooh, and right on the top of the mouth is some. And ooh, you can't see the hump on the mother whale for this one. And I'm going to do the baby later. Let's add another color. I'm going to add some of this blue right with the purple and blending it together and around the eye because the eye is actually lighter. And stay in your whale. Go carefully. And I'm going to bring that blue up the sides. I'm doing a little bit of imagining over there because in that picture the whale, the baby whale covers it, but you have your own artwork that you've made your own choices on too. So look at the photo, look at my art to get ideas for what makes the most sense for yours. Okay, and a little bit of that blue there. See how some areas I'm going lightly? Because it's not a dark blue there. It's just a blue. I'm going to add some more purple in. Just a little bit where I think it needs it. And some of that turquoise as well. And what's interesting is that the darkest areas I've put enough oil pastel on to fill them in all the way, but some areas I'm leaving lighter because I am going to blend it with white. So when I'm done with the whole thing. That whale is going to be filled with oil pastel so that when I watercolor over it, none of the watercolor sticks where the whale is. But it doesn't all have to be dark. If I use white on it, it's going to pick up some of the other oil pastel. And so I can put it on here, sometimes even where there's already a lot of oil pastel, and sometimes where it's just a little bit, and that is going to have it blend. Okay. That's starting to look really awesome. Ooh, how's yours coming out? Remember that oil pastel likes to blend, it likes layers, it likes to be thick. It's a little bit messy, but it lets you do so many amazing things. I think I'm just about there with that whale. Maybe I put a little bit more of the dark colors in it down below. And bump, 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 bump. And a little bit more blue in there too. See, if I put on too much white, I can blend other colors in again. And I'm gonna do the baby whale now.
You know what to do. It's the same thing we just did. Darker oil pastels where you see darker values, and use the oil pastels hard where you think they should be darker, and then lighter, and then use that white to blend everywhere that's light or that just needs the colors to be blended more.
And I think I'm just about there. How did your whales come out? Do they have dark areas and light areas? Are they all the way filled in with oil pastel? Did you blend those wonderful colors? I can't wait to see it. Let's use our oil pastels in another fun way. This way is different. And so what I am going to do is now I'm going to do more of coloring out of my imagination. This last coloring, I was looking closely at that picture and going, what does it really look like? This time, I'm thinking, I've got this wonderful currents of the ocean. I have these curvy lines. Let's fill it with some designs that are going to give us that feeling of the ocean. So I'm going to take a color, and it doesn't have to be an ocean color. I'm going to watercolor it with ocean colors, but having some other warm colors stand out might be really neat. And I'm going to pick a design, like maybe a curve, and do it inside one of the spaces that I created in the ocean. And so that was a curve that I did there. I'm going to do another one with, I think, some spirals. I really like doing spirals with the ocean. And so I'm going to do a spiral that comes out like that, and a spiral that comes out like that. And I've got spirals in here. I'm taking my time with each one, giving this feeling of the movement of the ocean. What sort of lines do you feel are going to give the movement of the ocean? I want some other lines in here too. I'm going to switch colors and do a red with that. I think I'm going to do a spiral that comes down. Ooh, that's interesting. And some of these spirals are smaller because the space is smaller. I like that. Let's see. I want some other darkish colors down here. Maybe, what will this area be?
What sort of lines will you create in your ocean to give a sense of movement and rhythm and of the currents of the ocean. You decide what is going to look good to you. I'm playing with different colors, and some parts repeat. It gives a sense of rhythm when it does that.
Now, what about that island there? I'm going to create some lines that start above land and go underwater. And they're going to come from the summit down, down, not on top of the waves, and down, down, down. Ooh. And again, and they're going right through those other areas. You might have a different idea, and I think it might just peter out at some point. Doesn't have to be seen everywhere, but you decide how you want to show that that island keeps going underwater.
I'm adding interesting lines above the ocean too, on land and on the surface of the ocean and in the sky. I'm using some white in there. That is going to be really neat when I cover it over with watercolor.
I think this is ready for watercolor now. Let's get our paint out. So now let's paint. You might be working on drawing paper like me. It should hold the water all right, but we don't want to keep painting and painting and painting and painting. That might make a hole in the paper. But we do want to fill this with color. One thing I'm going to think about is the deep, dark ocean is a different color than when you're near the surface and the sunlight is filtering through. So down here, I'm going to do the darkest blue, purples, maybe even a drop of black in there, possible. And then I'm going to have lighter and lighter blues, greens, blue-greens, and whatnot up to the surface. So let's do some watercolor washes in these different areas. So for a watercolor wash, I'm going to stop and think, where am I putting the water? I'm going to put it down here at the bottom. What color? I'm going to put blue, purple, green, maybe the tiniest bit of black down here, and then lighter colors as I go up. And what stroke? I'm going to hold my brush like a pencil, hold it on the middle part, and I am going to fill in these areas with water. I ended up doing lots of different sections. So I think I'm going to do both of these sections together. And so I'm doing these two lowest sections. And I'm using my brush on its side because I do want to fill in a large area. And so if I was doing detail, I'd use just the tip like that. But I'm filling in, so I am stroking the water with the side of the brush and then the color. Okay, let's take some of that blue in there first, and I want it dark, and so lots of blue. And ooh, look how that orange resists it. Lots of blue, and I'm going to take some purple and bring that in there too. Oops, too much purple. A little bit of water there. Okay, great. Purple. And because we're so deep, a little black in there, but not so that it really looks black, just so that it makes those other colors super deep and dark. Wonderful. Ooh. Are there any other colors you think should be dropped in? I like that feeling of being so deep in the ocean, but still with that energy. I'm going to go on to the next level up. And I think, just like before, I'm combining some of my areas. In my other paintings, I have 3 sections. This one, I made extra sections. But for the painting, I'll combine some of them. You can do every section separate if you want. Do what you think is going to look best for your artwork. And so I'm putting water in there just like before, and I'm thinking, Well, I know where I'm painting right now. I know what stroke I'm doing, but what color? I'm going to do this one a little bit lighter, a little bit more blue-green. I am going to let these other colors flow in. See how I'm touching the edge? Because I want it all to be wet. But I missed some areas in the center. So it's going to be like the same colors, but more blue-green, a little bit of purple. I don't think it's going to need any black this time. So, blue first again. Drop that blue in there. Let it flow. Let it flow. Let it flow. But I don't want it to look the same as before. Yes, some green in there will be nice. And you might have different ideas for how you want to color your ocean. I'm just sharing you my plan. Ooh, look at that blue-green in there. Ooh, I love making those turquoise tones. And more blue in there, more green, a little more green over here. Yeah, but I do want it to be even darker. Not black dark, just purple with the blue. Yeah, I'm going to drop some in right there, and ooh, look at that purple swirling in there. Ooh, and let this area down here be a little extra dark. I love how those warm, bright colors like the red spirals are standing out in that dark, dark oceany colors. The next part, the ocean, I'm going to go lighter because this is where the sunlight is reaching. So I'm going to do blue with more water and maybe even some yellow near the top. Let it have some blue-green, maybe a little bit of purple, but with water added so it's not that deep, dark color. So you decide what makes sense for yours. I'm going to keep this surface of the ocean area up there separate. I'm doing this area that's still underwater and around the whales. The whales are all oil pastel. And so if the water goes over them, it's not going to make a difference. I think the only spot I didn't put any oil pastel was right in the eyeball because I wanted to leave that white. So careful about that part. But other than that, it's all there. And when I touch this last part here, it is going to grab some of those colors from below. But I think that's okay for this art. It is about flowing. It is the ocean after all. It's water. We're painting water with watercolor. And so I love how that is flowing. Nice. Okay, I'm going to take some blue and I'm going to mix water with it so that I know it's going to be lighter. And I'm going to put that up here at the top. And if I keep filling with that blue plus water, look how it's lighter. Look how that yellow is still standing out, but it is softer. I'm going to add a little green to it, but just a little bit, still mixed with some water. So it's turquoisey, but lighter. And I'm going to drop in some yellow. So it's even more yellow-green sunlight water. Maybe a little bit coming down here, sort of like those rays of light that can come down through the water. Ooh, that is fun. I am going to wait a little bit on the ocean and the mountain because now I don't want these colors to flow into those. I want to create a separation. And so I wanted to dry a little bit And so I'm going to do the sky. And the sky, I'm going to do a watercolor wash up here. And I'm going to do I want to do it a light blue for daytime? Do I want it to be a dark, deep color because it's night? Do I want a yellow glow because maybe it's getting close to sunset? And I'm not putting the sun in here. I'm showing with my colors what time of day it is. And so I think if I put a yellow glow in here, that's going to be a really nice way of showing that it's late afternoon, close to sunset. So I've got yellow plus water. And remember how I put that white oil pastel in there? It's showing up. Ooh, yes, that's awesome. Ooh, I think that's what I want for the sky. Nice. And now the mountain. Maybe I can do the mountain carefully here. I'm not doing a watercolor wash because I want to have more control where the colors go. But I'm going to do yellow and I'm going to do green. So I've got a yellow green there and I'm going to do a darker blue green in some areas. And then I'm going to do more yellow green too. Ooh, I like that. And then that island in the distance. I think it's getting sort of lost in the sunset, so I'm going to make it orange. And I think I need some of that orange in this mountain. Yeah, maybe along the coastline. Just a little bit there. Wow, nice. And then the top of the ocean, I think I can get that in there if I'm careful. I won't have the waters flow out. I'm going to do a light blue. So blue plus water, that will be light. Okay. And see those little bits of oil pastel I put in there, how they're showing up now. The white is being little highlights. Ooh, I love it. I love it. So much fun. And see that one little spot where the color is flowing where I don't want it to? I'm going to take a clean part of my paper towel and go down, up once where it had that. Stop and look at your artwork from a distance. What do you notice? Where do you need more dark colors? Where do you need more light colors?
I'm continuing to play with my colors, making subtle changes. Some areas are a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, and some areas I want to be bold, so I'm making the colors more interesting and contrasting. And so I keep playing with it, but I'm also stopping and looking and finding what I like.
Okay, I keep playing with it a little bit more and a little bit more, but I think I need to find my stopping spot. I want a little bit of that red in the sky. Oops, that wasn't very red, but I kind of like it anyways. And I'm gonna call it done. Okay, whew. Wow, okay. So, here is your reflection question. What is your favorite subtle detail that you added? One of those details that was just a little suggestion of difference in shape or color or value. And also, what is your favorite bold detail that you added? This artwork has both subtle blending and shapes and also bold movement and colors. I can't wait wait to see your art when it's done. Make sure you share it with your teacher, post it online, put it on Padlet, and put it up in your home to celebrate the season of the whales returning and to make your family happy. I'll make more art with you next time. A hui ho!